just to prove to you that I am a saint at heart. I didn't want to leave New Orleans to go up to Philadelphia, but that just happens in football. This is my old hat from when I played for the Saints, and I still keep it. My wife washes it for me all the time because she says it's dirty. And I didn't wear a suit today because I've lost so much weight that I can't wear my suits anymore, and I kind of like that. My wife keeps telling me to go buy a new suit, and if I did, then she'd make me wear it. So I haven't gotten and bought one. Coach, I just wanted to tell you, I have the greatest respect for high school coaches. My high school coach had a lot to do with me making it. The school I went to in California was the most hated school in Southern California. They used to throw rocks at our bus when we showed up. They threw rocks at our bus when we left after we kicked their butts. Had an amazing coach. You know how some of these guys will tackle somebody and lean over them? With our team, if they leaned over one of our running backs, it was an open season. We didn't let them hang over. They could tackle our running backs because that's football. But they didn't hang over them because then we'd smack them. Every day, my coach had a lot to do with me, not just teaching. Physical toughness is not tough. That's easy because if you love football, you love to hit people. But it's what you develop is what the coaches teach you. And I had a coach that was a Marine, an ex-retired Marine. Every day, smarter, tougher, and better condition. We used to hear overcome, adapt, adjust. You hear those every single day at practice. And the head coach, Coach GNO, every day at practice walked up to me as we got started, and he'd grab me by the face mask and he'd slap me in the head, and he'd say, "You feel sorry for yourself, don't you?" Well, I got so damn mad every day that the first time we went to hit, someone was going to get hurt. And I was the smallest defensive lineman on the team, my offense in high school, I was 255 pounds, and I was the smallest of the four on that particular team. And I will never forget the last game we played ever. They brought all the seniors off to the field, and everybody clapped. You know, and guess who didn't get brought off the field? So I went up and asked him. I said, "Coach, you know, all these, 4 years starting for you, going both ways." And I wasn't a kicker yet. I was an end on the field goal team back in those days. And I said, "Why didn't you bring me off?" He said, "Tom, you're going places that these other guys only dream about." But he was a big factor in my life of getting where I got in the NFL. And I like to tease officials because, boy, your lives have gotten easy. Back when I was playing in the NFL, if an umpire made too many holding calls, guess what happened to him? He went down.
By accident, of course.
When I was with the Rams, I was a player rep during the strike, and I was on the bargaining committee. So the next year I got traded. It's usually what happened back in those days. And I got traded to the Rams. The very first game, our coach ran 20 sweeps to the right, and he hit the lineman 20 times. And I asked him, I said, "Guys, something I should know about on this?" And he said, "Well, he's the guy that made the bad call that cost us going to the Super Bowl." So Chuck Knox walked up to him and says, "You want to keep your blankety-blank flag in your pocket the rest of this year?" "Yes, I do." But back in the old days in playing in the NFL, it was a lot of fun, and the guys we played with and against were different. But if the officials made bad calls, there was going to be someone laying on the ground at that time. But it was such a great time. I wouldn't trade that era of football for anything in the world. The guys you played with, the guys you played against, they were very special. Remember back in those days, if you got injured and you were laying down, you cost a timeout to the team because there was no such thing like they have now. I've seen guys that I played with hop off the field with a broken ankle to keep from taking a timeout. And it was a lot of fun to play during that era. We had great coaching. I was very fortunate. Tom Fears was my first coach in New Orleans. And he helped me out a lot. And he's the one that gave me the job. You know, it was really tough because you don't understand things. Because I tried out with a bunch of teams, and I outkicked the kickers every time I went out there. And one of the coaches says, "Man, I can't have him on my team. He ain't got no toes and he ain't got no fingers. I can't take a shower with my team." I said, "Well, they stink, don't they?" So that coach didn't particularly like me at that time. But I've been a very fortunate man playing that I always had great coaches, and they always helped me. And it was a lot of fun. When I played for the Rams, we were up in San Francisco. And that's one of the toughest places there is to kick at Candlestick Park. Wind's always blowing. Do you remember Elijah Pitts? He used to play with Green Bay. He was my coach, one of the greatest men that I ever met in my whole life. And we're standing there looking at the flag on the goalpost, and they're going opposite ways. And Chuck Knox walks up to us and says, "What the hell are you two looking at?" I said, "We're trying to figure out which way to kick the ball with the flags." And he said, "Try the middle, stupid." And another time with the Chuck Knox story, because I really enjoyed playing for him. He was a great football coach and a great guy. We were playing one of the old teams that I didn't particularly care for, and we had one of our guys here that played for him. But we're getting ready to kick a field goal to win. I was going back 50-some yards, and they kept taking timeouts, because back in those days, there was no limit to the timeouts. Nowadays, they got limits on the kickers. You can only do it so many times. And so I'm standing there, and they're calling me all kinds of names. All kinds of names. And Chuck Knox pulled me over to the side after the third timeout. And he says, "You want to stand by me, Tom?" I said, "What the hell for, Chuck? Are you going to kick it?" And he says, "Go out and kick it, and I'm buying the beer afterwards." I said, "Okay." Finally went out, kicked it dead straight. It's 50, I don't know exactly how many yards, it's 50-some, went dead straight, and we won the game. And I turned around after all the things they yelled at me. I pointed to a place on my body that wasn't very good, and I said some words to them. So I got fined by the NFL. I got fined 35 grand, and the owner of the team gave me 55,000 and said, "Thank you. You won." One of the things that I learned from coaches, if you're a professional football player, a professional athlete, you're not paid to try to play or anything like that. You're paid to win. That's what you're paid to do. I learned that from my coaches. You get paid to win. And that's the way it was. And it was a tremendous amount of fun. Now, the one thing I will warn you, I don't read the newspaper. I learned that when I was young football player, and the coaches said, "Never read the newspaper, because you're never as good as they make you out to be, and you're never as bad as they make you out to be." Here in New Orleans, the old guys that were the newspaper men when I was playing here in New Orleans were just great, honest guys. They truly were. Some of them, we even got a Yankee now, who's one of the head guys on that, so I don't read it. They said, "Did you read the story?" I said, "No, my dog dumped on it." But and I started to read it about the things the coach he didn't run the ball enough. Well, hell, we were 4 touchdowns down. What do you want him to do? And I happen to be a big fan of Coach Payton, a big fan. I met him when he was a very young guy, about this tall. He lived close to the practice facility of the Eagles, and he and his buddies used to carry our equipment to the field. So when he came here, we started talking, and I said, "Coach, you want to carry my helmet again?" And he looked at me and said, "Only if you kick for me." And he knew I was way too old to do that anymore. But I love his style. I love the man's style. He coaches to win. And there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that coach to keep from losing. Have you ever noticed that? He coaches to win all the time, and I like that style. I like our defensive coordinator. There's only one person in that organization I don't like, and it's not the owner, because I like him. I used to work for him, so I had to like him. But you know, if you weren't happy with some of the stuff in the defensive backfield, then ask the guy who brought him in here, is he happy with it? You know, type situation. But you know, one game does not make a season. It never has, and it never will. You know, every team in our division got beat. And we played the best team, and we played them better than the other. God, I hate the Falcons. I don't watch a lot. I like to watch college football. I really enjoy watching that, and I like watching the Saints. But when the Falcons were getting their butts kicked, I couldn't turn off the TV. We never, you know, there were a lot of strange things happen through the years with those guys. But I think this team's going to come around. We got some people hurt. We got one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and I don't care what anyone else says. I have to really like and respect that guy. And the coaches, I think this is going to be a big test again. We got the big boys coming down. The bullies of the Midway are going to be down here. And they play tough. That's the way they've always played. It's going to be a tough game. I just hope our offensive tackles are up to it, because we're playing against two great outside defensive ends. They're both of them very, very good. You know, but it's going to be fun. We got to play it in our house this time. We don't have to play in their house. Anybody got any questions they want to ask me?
Did you ever meet Alex Connors after the famous kick? What did he say? Did he ever go with him?
Yeah, Alex Karras is one of the nicest people it's ever been my pleasure to meet. And he had a situation where he took kids that were not born quite like myself or someone else, and they needed a lot of help, and he was the guy that put money into them. And I used to go up with him to go every year to help him raise money for what he did. And he was one hell of a football player. That's the only way to describe him. In high school, I wore his number, so every time I see him, I remind him that when I was in high school, I used to wear 71 because that was your old number. Yeah. Then he always has something nice to say to me about that. But he said, you know, I wish I had a picture to show you, but Wild Bill Cody, you remember him? Tough son of a gun. When we were kicking the field goal, he blocked down, which he's supposed to do, and then he picked up his foot and he kicked Alex Karras in the privates. And that's why he didn't rush me. Wild Bill was nuts. He still is nuts. Yes, he is. Just a great guy, you know, type situation. But yeah, he's a good guy, and I heard what he said. Yeah, but like I said, you live with those things. Any other questions?
Hey, Mr. Dempsey, you said that in high school you were playing on the line. I was just curious as when you started kicking.
Started when I was in college, and I still wasn't playing. I wasn't a kicker when I got there. I was a defensive end, and I played some offense because I used to cheat. I would go out against the best pass rushers, and I'd go to him, and I'd go boom, boom, then I'd take this hand, I'd stick it in his eyes. Because you use what you got. And I used to get called for holding, and I'd walk up to the official and say, how the hell can I hold? But the way it started, we had a kicker who was a pretty good little short kicker, but he couldn't kick off. So he lined up the whole team and he said, one of you blankety blanks can kick off. So we all lined up and I'm standing there. I was one of the last. I took off my shoe and I kicked the ball that went out of the end zone. And he said, do it again. And went out of the end zone again. He says, you're kicking Saturday night. But up to a certain point, I never had anyone coach me in kicking. I had no idea. When I was with the Chargers, a guy named Joe Maggio was the offensive line coach, but he was the kicker, and he taught me more in 2 hours than anybody ever taught me the whole time, other than Lou Groza. Boy, you talk about a great guy. He would pull me off to the side, and I kind of liked Lou Groza because we were both kind of big. But he was a great kicker. He was the first of the great kickers in the NFL. But he gave me all kinds of things to do, so they would help you. But that's the way I learned to kick. You know, it wasn't, started off just kicking, then I kicked a 60-yard field goal that an official said wasn't any good. It was only dead center. And at that time, my college coach ran and got me before I kicked him.
Anyone else?
You think you'll ever see a kicker in Hall of Fame?
Pardon?
You think you'll ever put a kicker in Hall of Fame?
They have.
Kicker in the NFL.
Huh?
John Stenner.
John Stenner, one of the great kickers there ever was, and a good guy.
The only one.
The only one, and we got one that should make it.
Morton.
Morton should make it. Yeah, he really should. I'm pulling for him.
The other half of that gentleman's question was, do you have any Billy Kilman stories?
Oh, yeah, what a great guy. We used to call him Furnace Face. I saw Billy in a game playing. He dislocated his shoulder, and we put out Eddie Hargett. He got knocked out, so guess went back in there and played Billy Kilman. That was one tough son of a gun, and he was a good quarterback. It was a lot of fun to be around.
Anyone else?
Anyone else? Well, it's been a pleasure. I always look forward to coming to you and with the coach. This is what makes football players, is the high school coaches.